Just come Taylor Crossing, Western Break Junction. We're on the fire break.
So it's so cool to see wild dog pups again. This is a different pack to the one that was denning on Londolozi. There's a pack that was denning northwest of us, but they have brought their pups onto the reserve. We found them now near the Sand River, but we've lost them. They've run into a very thick block. We don't want to drive too close to them because that might scare the pups. They're still getting used to it. There they are. It's level with us. So we're just trying to kind of keep parallel to them in the hope that they might come onto the road or get to an open clearing and we'll get a better view.
In the grass there the whole time.
Okay, wow, we just had an amazing walk by or run by of all the pups, and now suddenly impala tearing out of the thickets around us. So we just stopped. One dog came past, just managed to get a camera up. You might see something, but it shows how things can turn on a dime. Suddenly I think the lead runners of the pack had seen an impala herd and have taken off after them. So we're just waiting in an open area to see if any of them emerge. The pups have followed the adults. There come the pups, yeah, coming back to the road. Yeah, so the pups obviously aren't going to take part in a hunt, but some of the adults have gone off, and when that happens, generally the rest of the pack will stay.
Coming back?
Oh yeah, okay, this one's missed. Here he comes behind us. They'll generally stay at the last place they were all together, and that's where they know they can all regroup and then continue. So the adults were quite clever there. We found the dogs this morning because Sean found a couple of hyenas milling around with a bit of blood on their faces. So there was obviously an interaction which we didn't see. That would have been first thing this morning. But then as soon as they'd all regrouped, the adults just took the pups and they took off. They took them out of the danger area where there were about 10 hyenas milling around. They just went tearing up the road. And I mean, the pups were running at almost 40 k's an hour. That's about 26 miles an hour. And we were sort of struggling in the distance behind them, trying to keep up. And the pups were keeping up with these tiny little legs. So now they're all safe. Now some of the adults have gone off hunting. They've been chasing impala. And we're just waiting with the pups and the babysitters. Usually some adults will stay behind with the young ones just to kind of keep them safe. That's the advantage of being a slightly bigger pack, not a pack of two, which we had. You know, that's one of their disadvantages. They were never really able to leave babysitters behind. They generally both had to commit to the hunt, although they didn't always. So now what we're wanting to see is a couple of the adults coming back covered in blood. Then we know there's been a successful hunt and they'll hopefully regurgitate food for the pups. So now we're just waiting for the pack to regroup. They're all sort of scattered liberally around here. There's some over here, one here, the pups are over here. And we didn't see how many took off on the hunt. I think there's 10 or 12 in this pack, something like that. So now they, just like us, wait for the rest to come back. And I mean, despite popular belief, wild dogs aren't actually the most successful hunters on an individual level. Most of them strike out when they chase something. But as a pack, because they all sort of scatter and each chase after their own impala, I mean, sometimes 3 chase one impala, 2 chase another one. Just because it's a numbers game, a pack as a whole is far more likely to be successful on a hunt. Okay, brilliant. We've just heard the one that was coming in contact calling. They've all got up and they've run towards it, him, her, and now they're all regrouping. So here we go. Look at this up ahead of us. was a very nostalgic morning, spending time with wild dogs and their pups. They're all just dozing now. Apparently one of the other guys bumped into two of the missing pack members about 2 kilometers that way, trotting in the opposite direction. So I don't know if they're looking for them. Well, they must be. I think they probably got separated early in the morning, went hunting, and now they're just trying to slowly regroup. It's getting quite warm, so I don't think we can expect too much activity for the rest of the day. So we'll leave them to it. And yeah, I mean, it's been a couple of months since we've seen a little wild dog pup, so that was incredibly special. Well, it's amazing the difference 5 minutes makes. One of the adults looked like it was moving to the shade, so we stuck around, and then the missing ones that had been hunting came back, and there's a whole big reunion. And I mean, that was amazing. And while the pack went to go meet up with those returning members, the pups just came and sat right by the vehicle. I mean, they were 5 meters away at the most. Amazing. Now they've trotted off into a fairly thick block. It's not going to get better than we've already seen, so we'll leave them to it, and I'll try to find them in the next couple of days.
As we're driving down towards the Sand River, we switched off just to listen, and we heard lions calling. As we drove through this really beautiful thick area, we saw movement of one of the lionesses. And she was just lying up in the middle channel. A beautiful big breeding herd of elephants came down to the water just behind us. They then carried on moving through the river and then chased the lions off. We're going to loop around and see if we can find these lions somewhere in the middle channel. It is quite tricky moving our way around in that soft sand, but I think let's go give it a bash. So we've come down into the river now. We've looped around where we last saw the lions. They were moving in this general direction. There's a big breeding herd of elephants just behind them, and they've filtered down in the same direction. As we left the river and Pete Thorpe was just in front of us, he came around the corner and the whole Mungen pride were lying up in the shade just in front of him. So they had definitely moved a little bit faster than we had anticipated. It's been an unbelievable morning with them. It is starting to get really hot, so I think we're going to leave them and let them be for the day. there is a lot of shade in the area here where I think they're going to lie up.
We've just found the Xinzele female on a hoisted impala ram kill. Quite exciting as we hardly ever see this female leopard close to the extreme northern parts of Londolozi. She's now just ascended the tree and she's heading for a small pool of water in the Londolozi riverbed. And it's a pool that's got a little sandbank above it, and we've been dreaming of seeing something drink here over the last few months before the water pool dries up. We had a beautiful sighting of her lapping up the water for what seemed like ages. She then proceeded to move onto the most beautiful sandbank raised up at eye level with us. An absolutely stunning scene. And luckily for us, there's quite a lot of the impala left in the tree, so there's a good chance tomorrow morning she'll be back there feeding on that kill.
So we're sitting with a male and a female giraffe, and they're being trailed by another male. And it's pretty clear that the first male, who's tagging on right behind the female, he's clearly looking to mate. And I think it's almost certainly the female is an estrus, because the second male is following so persistently. And that female must be giving off pheromones in her urine that indicate to the other males that she's ready to mate. What's interesting though, I would have imagined that the first male would be, I don't know, I would have thought there'd be a bit more antagonism between him and the second male, but at the moment he's just sort of shepherding the female away. She's not really being too responsive at the moment, but we'll wait and see what happens. What's nice in the situation is the clear difference in size between male and female. I mean, you can't get more obvious than this. Males are big, thick horns, thick necks from fighting. These are adult males I'm talking about. And then the female is just much, much thinner. So let's see what happens here. We could get some interesting developments. I'd be fascinated to see if there's any aggression that develops between these two bulls. So we've been here for about 20 minutes and we've yet to see any actual mating take place. Once or twice the bulls tried to mount the female, but she doesn't seem too receptive at the moment. And the second bull is trailing persistently behind, but he's not closing the gap, and the first male isn't trying to push him away or anything like that. I think that the first male is quite loath to let the female get more than a few steps away from him. We're quite lucky here. They're coming up towards the airstrip where it's obviously nice and open, so we're getting an amazing view of them with open skies behind. There have been a lot of giraffes spending time very close to the Londolozi camps in the last couple of months, so we've had some fantastic sightings. Still, you kind of get the feeling something's going to happen here, but yeah, so far they're just, you know, so far they're just walking along, and nothing's really developed yet. Okay, this has just got very interesting now. So the pair, the male and the female, they've disappeared into these thickets behind us, and a third bull has suddenly just come on the scene. He's coming out of the thicket line just ahead of us. So most likely he's caught the scent of the female, which is further evidence that she is an estrus. He's obviously caught her scent and is now zeroed in on her. I think something's going to happen here. There's surely, with 3 big bulls around, you can't not get some kind of conflict. The second bull's turned and he's now coming out to meet the third bull, so I think we're about to see some action here. This is brilliant. Okay, that was unbelievably intense. I thought one of those bulls was going to kill the other. Man, that is the most hectic giraffe fight I've ever seen. They've kind of lost interest in each other now. Usually what will happen is one bull will realize, hang on, I'm not going to win this, and he'll concede. And I think that's what's happened here. I mean, sometimes these fights will go to the death. They've wandered off into the thickets now. It did look like the third bull actually came out on top, which was interesting because to me it looked like he was a little bit smaller. Yeah, I wouldn't have expected it to go that way, but man, that was unbelievable. So, and in all that, the female and the other male, the pair, they've wandered off into the distance, so they're goodness knows where now. So these guys fought it seemingly over nothing. That was wild.